Samuel Beckett was an Irish playwright who wrote Waiting for Godot, Act Without Words 1 and 2, Not I, and Endgame, among other things. Beckett was a major writer in the theater of the absurd movement, in which the previous works are classified. The theater of the absurd movement focused on revealing facts about existence through absurdity. Some short story writers used stock characters to prove things about humanity. In the same way, theater of the absurd writers use a new setting, sometimes with and sometimes without characters, to show how reality works or doesn't work. Theater of the absurd is a term that was first coined by Martin Esslin, who liked the name well enough to use it as the title of a book he wrote in 1961, after using it as the title of a similar essay in 1960. Theater of the absurd often includes elements of comedy and tragedy together, and emphasizes the mundane nature or futility of life. Theater of the absurd, Esslin says, includes plays that flout all the standards by which drama has been judged for many centuries. They must therefore appear as a provocation to people who have come into the theater expecting to find what they would recognize as a well-made play. A well-made play is expected to present characters that are well observed and convincingly motivated. However, these plays often contain hardly any recognizable human beings and present completely unmotivated actions. A well-made play is expected to entertain by the ding-dong of witty and logical built-up dialogue. In some of these plays, dialogue seems to have degenerated into meaningless babble. A well-made play is expected to have a beginning, a middle, and a neatly tied-up ending. These plays often start out at an arbitrary point and seem to end just as arbitrarily. Esslin says that theater of the absurd plays simply work, and that it is not sensible to mock or degrade them based on the author not accomplishing something like perspective, which he intentionally did not accomplish, but that it makes more sense to find out what the authors of these plays did intend and critique them on that. Esslin wanted to make sure that people saw theater of the absurd as a useful distinction or classification when speaking about this type of theater, and wanted to make very certain that no one thought he was trying to bind plays within a strict genre that could not very well be bound. In Act Without Words 1, Beckett considers a man who is thrown into a desert knowing nothing, introducing him to certain items, boxes, water, a palm tree, scissors, rope, the sound of a whistle, and shade, and taking them away from him. The man comes to realize that with the scissors or the rope, he could kill himself, but, upon realizing this, the dangerous possessions are taken from him. The rules of the man's world change continuously, things appearing and disappearing, or being raised and lowered. As the world evades giving him things that he wants, shade, water, relief through death, the man learns about the world and the adversity he faces through it, and becomes more frustrated with his existence and the world he lives in. The whistle in particular seems to change in demeanor throughout the play, in the audience's mind as well as the man's. At the onset of the play, the whistle seems to the man to be a call. He runs to it. After being thrown back several times, the man decides the whistle is not a call. Then, when things start appearing, the man is alerted to them through the whistle. So it can be reasoned that the whistle is giving him gifts, or at least that the whistle is alerting him to the presence of gifts. But if the whistle is giving the gifts, then it is also teasing him with the water and the other gifts, taking away the gifts when it doesn't like how he uses them. However, since he has no communication with the world or the whistle, the man has no way to know what he's supposed to do with anything he is given, if indeed he is supposed to do anything at all. By the end of the play, the man decides to stop engaging with the world, to the point that the water is practically lowered into his lap, but is ignored by him. It is easily speculated that the man ignores the water because he doesn't expect to have any chance of obtaining it, even though it seems so close. Or because he doesn't expect water to bring him any more relief or happiness than any of the other items have. The play mirrors the experience of people as theater of the absurd writers saw them. Born knowing nothing and conscious of little, we experiment with the items around us as they come closer or are taken away. But true satisfaction evades us. Each time we come close to satisfaction, it steps further away, until finally we are so worn down by our own pursuit, and so dejected in our defeat, that we stop trying, whether in defiance or depression. Theater of the absurd writers feel free to use situations that don't make any sense outside of fiction, like the man who doesn't know anything but is capable of learning, and the desert that gives and takes away seemingly at random, or even in spite, to represent things about life and existentialist philosophy. The belief that nothing is real and nothing matters, taken from the existentialism movement in philosophy, is present in the works of the theater of the absurd writers. But, along with it, parts of classical theater and storytelling, like observations about the world, people, human constructs, and human nature, sometimes flow in as well. Act Without Words 1 is a great example of this in particular. Theater of the absurd borrows ideas from previous playwrights. Noticeably, Bertolt Brecht's idea that distracting the audience from the play has value, the methods of several nonsense poets, and the idea, which Estlin says can be traced to Shakespeare, that discomfort and misery can be humorous. Theater of the absurd, in the end, is a title applied to experimental works that went and go beyond the normal scope of theater, avoiding the rules and convention to dig at the heart of the author's view of the world, whether that encompasses people, places, things, ideas, or nothing at all.